Is Latin right for you? To find out, let's take a look at some classes where you'll see a lot of Latin. Computer code. Look at what this programmer is doing. That's called concatenation. Con is Latin for together, and catena is Latin for chain. That programmer is creating a chain of code. Latin is the language of STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and math. The word science itself comes from the Latin word scientia, meaning knowledge. Biology. Take a look at this animal. You know its English name. Its scientific name is Panthera leo. Leo is Latin for lion. Whether you're a scientist in China, France, or Mexico, the scientific name for this animal is still Panthera leo, a Latin name. That's true for every living thing on our planet, including viruses like the coronavirus. Corona is the Latin word for crown. Latin is the language of biology. Astronomy. Take a look at this massive volcano on the planet Mars. It's called Olympus Mons. Olympus was the home of the Greco-Roman gods. Mons is Latin for mountain. All the locations on Mars and our moon, the planets themselves, the constellations, the visible stars, and the motto of the Apollo moon mission itself are all in Latin. Latin is the language of astronomy. Math. Take a look at this shape. It's called a quadrilateral. Quadra is Latin for four. Latera is Latin for sides. Quadrilateral is any shape with four straight sides. Most math terms are built like that. Latin is the language of math. Anatomy. Look at this muscle. You might call it a lat. That's short for the medical term latissimus dorsi. Latissimus is Latin for widest, and dorsi is Latin for of the back. That's how hundreds of our body parts are named. Latin is the language of the human body. Geography. Take a look at this image of France. Look at its borders. Listen to its language.
Qu'est-ce que vous aimez bien de Paris? Ah, tout, j'adore Paris.
These wouldn't exist if it weren't for what Julius Caesar did in 52 BC. The borders and language of Europe, Asia Minor, North Africa, and the Middle East exist today because of the Roman Empire. Even the United States can trace its ancestry back to the Roman Empire. Civics. Take a look at these phrases on our dollar bill. E pluribus unum, annuit coeptis, and novus ordo seclorum. The Great Seal of the United States, represented on our dollar bill, doesn't contain a single word of English, but it does contain 3 Latin phrases. Latin connects America to the Roman Republic, whose government served as a model for ours. Half of our U.S. states also have Latin mottos, as do many of our schools. English. Here's Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Cask of Amontillado. Many freshmen read this story at the high school level. Take a look at this phrase in the middle of the story. Nemo me impune lacessit. Nemo means nobody. Me means me. Impune means without being punished. And lacessit means harms. So this phrase means nobody harms me and gets away with it. English texts written before 1900 like this one frequently include Latin quotations like this. History. Take a look at this image of the defenestration of Prague in 1618 AD. The commoners are literally throwing the nobility out the window. Defenestration seems like a complicated word, but like all big words, it comes from little words, and those little words are Latin. De is Latin for out, and fenestra is Latin for window. Film. Take a look at this movie clip.
Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. The Latin term for that sentiment is carpe diem.
Carpe means seize, and diem means day. You may have noticed that Latin is a motif in many contemporary films and TV shows. Culinary arts. Take a look at this cooking video on YouTube.
Hodie quamus. prandium. Prandium est quibus quod media die comedimus.
Many terms in the culinary arts come from Latin, including the word culinary itself, which comes from the Latin word for kitchen, culina. Global studies. Take a look at this speaker at a convention in Madrid, Spain. His name is Luigi Miraglia, and he's speaking Latin to an international audience whose native languages vary widely. Latin is a language that brings people together from a wide range of cultural and linguistic backgrounds. Spanish. Modern Spain was once a province of the Roman Empire. The Spanish language developed directly from Latin as it was spoken in that province. For that reason, the grammar and vocabulary of Spanish come from Latin. There's a large spoken Latin community in Mexico, and Spanish speakers who take Latin find that it's a powerful bridge between their native language and English. English vocabulary. As you can see, Latin is ubiquitous.
Are you taking Latin at your school? Psoriasis is a noun, origin Greek.
Are you kidding? My school barely has enough money for kickballs. There's no Latin classes.
Latin really helps you understand words.
From the Latin word ubique, meaning everywhere. Latin is particularly useful because it comprises more than 90% of English's academic vocabulary. That's probably why Latin students score so well on college entrance exams. Latin students just know more words. Because Latin is a bridge between so many different subjects, you can probably see why it would help you to do really well in school, and that's definitely one reason to learn Latin. But here's another one. Latina ipsa. That means Latin itself. Nearly every significant book and letter written and read in European and American schools before 1700 is in Latin. In the last decade, hundreds of new books, most of them written for young people, as well as new podcasts and YouTube channels, have been published in Latin. So you'll never run out of interesting things to read and watch. Have you ever heard someone say that Latin is dead? You probably have. You may wonder how that can be if Latin really is everywhere. It's because, linguistically, dead doesn't really mean dead. It just means that Latin is only learned in school. It's always learned as a second language, and it's been that way in our schools for the last 1,500 years. That's the reason that almost all of our academic vocabulary comes from Latin. So, are you thinking about a career in a STEM field, in English, in the arts? If so, talk to your school counselor and find out what Latin options are available to you. A little research now will pay big dividends in the future. Verbum sapienti sat est. Bene vale.